Okay, so just welcome all those that are online today. We are all here for our council meeting, Tuesday, 2nd of June 2026, and we have a number of items that we wish to discuss today. So we will now stand for the affirmation. So can all please stand for the affirmation, and Councillor Justine Hyde will read it.
We recognise the traditional owners of the land. We are inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our country. We now ask God's blessing on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment.
This council meeting is being recorded and live streamed to Council's YouTube channel. The recording will also be made available on Council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. So we go to item 1, apologies and leave of absence. So do we have any apologies or leave of absence? No. Item 2, confirmation of minutes. So the council meeting held on Tuesday the 5th of May 2026.
I'm happy to move that the minutes as listed and copies which have been circulated be confirmed and adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. All those in favour, show of hands. Okay, that's carried. Any matters arising from the minutes? Item 4, presentations or awards. There's no presentations or awards. Item 5, presentation of petitions and joint letters. There are nil. Going to item 6, disclosures of a conflict of interest at a councillor meeting. Does anyone have a disclosure or a conflict of interest that they wish to declare? No. We'll go to item 7, informal meetings of councillors.
I'm happy to move that the informal meetings of council be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Someone to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Show of hands. All those in favour? That's carried. Item 8, are there any items brought forward? No items to be brought forward. Item 9.1.1, health, wellbeing and community. And the purpose of this report is to report the progress of the third quarter of the Council Action Plan 2025-2026.
Mayor, I'm happy to move that Council notes the Council Action Plan report from 1st of January to the 31st of March 2026 period.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Somebody to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Greenberger, did you wish to address the Council on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. The Council Plan 25 to 29 provides the objectives that Council will undertake throughout the 4-year period to achieve the goals set out in the Council Plan. The Council Action Plan 25-29 was adopted by Council at its 6th of October meeting 2025. Each quarter we receive a report to explain to Council where those actions are up to in terms of their completion. And I'm pleased to report that of the Year 2 actions, 33% are completed and the other 67% of actions are now in progress. So very much on schedule to have them completed by the year's end. And there's certainly some excellent initiatives underway.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger.
Yeah, there's nothing more to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Greenberg, would you like to?
Excuse me, I'd like to speak for the motion. Very pleasing to see that we're going to have a surplus, and I was at the MAV conference last week, and the local government minister was saying how lots of councils are producing their budgets now with a forward position of surplus, and I wondered how that could be involved in setting their budgets. And I know this council in particular has pushed back some projects which perhaps we should have been dealing with sooner rather than later, but it enables us to get a clearer view of what we need to do in the positions going forward. So it's very pleasing, and well done to our finance team.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Greenberg, would you like to sum up?
No, thank you, Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. So, agenda item 9.1.2, funding policy grants, sponsorship and contributions. The purpose of this report is for Council to adopt the amended funding policy grants, sponsorship and contributions policy.
I'm happy to move that Council adopts the revised funding policy grants, sponsorship and contributions.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Somebody to second that recommendation?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Councillor Hyde, do you wish to address the Council on the motion?
Sure. Council has an existing funding policy. Its purpose is to set out a framework to guide all grants, sponsorship and contributions distributed by the Council to external parties. And this policy was due for a review. So a review was undertaken of the existing policy, and there were a few changes, such as the policy name to make it clearer, also updated council plan references, removed the reference to Sustainability Victoria, as the state government has announced the abolishment of this organisation in 2026, and a few other adjustments there. So all in all, looks pretty good.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. So, Councillor Probes, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Not really anything further to add. We've just added a little bit more detail in the assessment of applications, so it makes it a little bit more transparent for people applying.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. So, any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to speak for the motion, basically to add to what Councillor Hyde and Councillor Probst have indicated. I think it's really important to notice that this new policy really does reflect very explicit guidelines to the assessment process to ensure diverse representation and equity, which is certainly something that's very much emphasis these days in the way all of our projects are assessed. So, as well as making the policy more transparent and consistent, it introduces the idea of a diverse assessment panel and also looks at the issue of equity and inclusion to ensure that all different aspects of our community are included when these things are assessed. And there's some more information on documentation and accountability, and also clear communications with applicants. So very much a refined policy to enable it to be much more responsive and engaging with the community that are interested in this particular process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. So, any other councillor wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Hyde, did you wish to sum up?
No, we covered it. Thanks.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. So 9.2.1 waste management strategy, and the purpose of this is to adopt a mid-term review of the waste management strategy 2020 to 2030, which supports the implementation of the 4-stream waste and recycling services in accordance with legislative requirements under the circular economy. We have had a lot of conversations in regards to this one, and yeah, just asking if somebody would like to move a motion.
I move that Council adopts the midterm review of the Waste Management Strategy 2030, that it endorses the continuation of operational planning in line with the strategy, including implementation of the revised curbside waste and recycling service model, and to support the rollout of 4-stream waste and recycling services from 1st of July 2027. And 3, endorses collaboration with other councils to advocate the state government for a delay in the implementation of glass recycling reforms, and to reconsider, amend or withdraw the proposed household curbside glass recycling service outlined in the draft service standards.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Would anyone like to second the recommendation?
Yes, I'd like to second the recommendations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. So, Councillor Probst, would you like to speak to Council on the motion?
The Victorian Government is bringing in the 4-bin strategy from July next year, and as part of that they'd like every council to have the 4 bins picked up from households. We've discussed lots of options on how we could implement that. Adding the purple glass bin is another huge cost to our councils for very little benefit. There's only 20% of the purple glass bins are collected in other shires that already have them. So it's, I think, very short-sighted to require councils to bring in that 4th glass bin when there's not a need for it, particularly in our rural communities. That's to do with FOGO. But the glass bins, we've decided that we would rather have the drop-off collections for them. The Victorian Government hasn't formalised their service standards yet, so we really don't know what they're going to require. Our hope is that they will delay the introduction of the purple glass bins because there's really not a need for them, and the container deposit scheme is working well, and it would be better to expand that to cover other glass bottles, wine bottles and spirits bottles, etc. So our draft waste strategy keeps our red bins on a weekly collection cycle, which in the community engagement we did, a lot of people were in support of that, mainly because of the smell of keeping the red bins for 2 weeks, particularly parents with young babies and nappies. So we're keeping the red bins on a weekly service. The yellow bins are staying on their fortnightly service. The FOGO, the green bins that have been in St Arnaud, will now be introduced to other communities. And the purple bins, we won't be providing the purple bins, we'll be having a glass drop-off centre. So people that do have glass waste, if it doesn't go in the container deposit scheme, you can drop it off to a central location. And having said that, there's only 2% of the waste in our yellow bins is glass anyway, so introducing bins for 2% of glass when only 20% of people put out their purple bins anyway seems a total waste of money.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Councillor Greenberger, would you like to speak to the council on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to emphasise that a lot of this review report and the new strategy is in response to community consultation. I recall right back to the election campaign, and there was a very strong emphasis in the community of wanting a green waste bin, and we're very pleased as part of this strategy that that bin will be rolled out by the 1st of July 2027, and I think that's really, really good news for our community. I think the other point to note is that given the opportunity to provide a bulk collection point for glass and the recycling of FOGO, I think that this very much meets the council plan objective of becoming a sustainable LGA. So I commend the strategy to everyone. It's an excellent strategy, but also very responsive to what the community needs, but also realistic in what's most affordable for the community and for us to manage as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Yeah. Any councillor want to speak for the motion?
I would like to just add, if I can, Mayor, on this. I'm speaking for the motion, sorry. The glass recovery system is continuing to evolve, and with the deposit container scheme expected to expand in line with the trends observed in other states. In Victoria, a growing number of local governments have raised concern with the state government regarding the proposed curbside glass recycling service model. 36 Victorian councils have collaborated, so 36 out of the 79, to advocate for an alternative approach, including the expansion of the CDS, increased use of glass drop-off facilities and considerations of other service models. So Northern Grampians Shire Council has been invited to join this advocacy group, and considering it's supporting the group, it aligns with Council's preferred glass recycling service model outlined in the waste management strategy. There is no cost for Council to be joining this advocacy group. It is just trying to share our uniformed voice to the state as we wait for further confirmation on any changes.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Is there any other councillor wish to speak for or against the motion? I just wish to add that Council proposes to implement waste and recycling services by 1st of July 2027 as followed. So urban, which is a compulsory collection zone, will have curbside 120 litre general rubbish collection collected weekly, red lid, curbside 240 litre mixed recycling collected fortnightly, yellow lid, curbside 240 FOGO recycling collected fortnightly, lime green lid, and drop-off for glass recycling will be at approved collection points. So rural non-compulsory collection zone will be curbside 120 litre general rubbish collected weekly, red lid, curbside 240 litre mixed recycling collected fortnightly, yellow lid, drop-off FOGO recycling at approved transfer station facilities, and drop-off for glass recycling at approved collection points. So at the moment, the Victorian Government released draft service standards outlining proposed requirements for waste and recycling services. While not yet adopted, they require glass and FOGO services by 1st of July 2027 and introduced a potential FOGO opt-out model under certain conditions. When the service standards are confirmed, Council may need to adjust service delivery to ensure compliance. So at the moment, we will be advocating with 36 other councillors, as Councillor Hyde said, advocating to state government for alternative solutions to glass recycling. Should the final state services differ from this model, Council will amend services to ensure compliance. Okay, so if there's nobody else wishes to speak for or against the motion, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Okay, that's carried. So 9.3.1 March quarter finance report. And this is just to advise Council of the finance report for the third quarter ended 31st of March 2026. So if I could have somebody to move the recommendation.
I move that Council notes the financial report for the third quarter ended 31 March 2026 without amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Is somebody to second that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. So, Councillor Probes, do you wish to address the Council on the motion?
Just to note that each of the quarterly reports, like our cash balance in it ebbs and flows. You might notice if you've really read the accounting reports that the cash balance is up and down. It varies from quarter to quarter. A lot of that is just timing issues. But overall, the budget is just steady as she goes. There's no surprises in there, nothing to be totally concerned about. It's just, we look at it at a point in time, and so the cash balances, it might be 9 mil this time, but next quarter it might be totally different, mainly because of timing issues of when we get money and spend money.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Councillor Blake.
Yeah, nothing more to add.
So any councillor wish to speak for or against the motion?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be speaking for the motion, of course, but I think I better tidy up what I said earlier about motion. My device was running here, there and everywhere. I think I made a comment about this motion in 9.1.3 instead of 9.3.1. But when I looked around the table, I could see my fellow councillors all looking at me and saying, what the hell's he up to, that bloke? So I moved my comments from 9.1.3 to 9.3.1 in regard to the savings that this council has made, and thank you for your tolerance.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. So any other councillor wishes like to speak for or against the motion? And it's definitely a favourable report. So our financial position is a lot higher than what was adopted, which is what Councillor Emerson was saying. It's definitely a good report. So no one else wants to speak for or against the motion? All those in favour? Show of hands. Okay, that's carried. So 9.3.2, Budget Development and Management Policy. So this is to review and adopt the Budget Management and Development Policy.
I'm happy to move that Council adopts the reviewed Budget Development and Management Policy.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Is somebody to second the recommendation?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Councillor Hyde, do you wish to address the Council on the motion?
So we adopt annually the Budget Development and Management Policy, and why we have this, Council is responsible for significant assets and services to the community, and this policy provides a clear guideline around how the budget is prepared and who is responsible for its parts. What the policy is: sound budget management practices, open and transparent communications with the community, and providing economic and social sustainable services. It highlights guiding principles. In short, basically, the Budget Development and Management Policy is a document that gives us the expectations on how we're going to manage Council's budget on an ongoing basis, and gives us the clarity to understand the principles that we use to manage it on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Emerson, did you wish to talk to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Nothing further to add. Well delivered by Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. So any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak for the motion? Okay, so I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. So now we have 9.3.3, so it's lease and licence policy, and the purpose of this report is to adopt the lease and licence policy to provide a framework for consistent, fair and transparent allocation of Northern Grampians Shire Council owned and or managed land and building assets. And we've had a lot of conversation in regards to this one. Yeah, some things just aren't easy sometimes, are they? But I'll be interested to see if someone has a recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move option 3, that Council adopts the lease and licence policy with the following additional clause. In order to support the health and well-being of its residents, Council will not grant a new long-term occupancy lease or licence on Council-owned or managed land and facilities that includes the introduction of or an increase in the number of electronic gaming machines, EGMs.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Would someone like to second that recommendation?
I'm happy to second Jenny's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Greenberg, would you like to address the council on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, the policy as it exists is provided to ensure the best overall social, environmental and economic benefits for the Shire community that they are achieved from occupancy of these assets. Implementation of this policy will provide sound administration and financial management while minimising Council's risk through effective assets management. The lease and licence policy includes preferred items, parameters for considering any new leases or licences, rental pricing strategy, tenant classifications, governance and legislative compliance requirements, and lease and licence responsibilities. The policy provides guidance to Council staff and to both current and prospective lessees or licensees and ensures legislative processes and procedural compliance while ensuring a consistent, fair and transparent approach to the allocation and occupation of these assets. It supports the sustainability of assets through appropriate and equitable contributions towards maintenance and other costs, while also delivering a service that benefit the needs of the local community. Now, with respect to the additional clause, I just wish to point out the reason why I would like to have this clause included. Now, if you have watched any of the myriad of gambling ads on the TV at the moment, the thing that always seems to be said at the end is, imagine what you could be buying instead. In the Northern Grampians Shire Council, the total amount of money spent on poker machines is in the order of $4.18 million. There are 36 machines in St Arnaud and 45 machines in Stawell. Could you imagine what impact it would have on our small businesses if that amount of money was actually spent in small businesses rather than feeding poker machines? So there's that economic element of the impact of poker machines in our area. Now, I'm not a total wet blanket. I am not anti-gambling. Games of chance or horses or people running are a fairly even betting proposition. However, there is lots of information around these days about how electronic gaming machines are actually set up to encourage people to spend more and to lose more. And if anybody has been watching the Sean McAuliffe four-part series on gambling on the ABC. In the first episode, he was doing a story about an older woman who was attending a gaming venue, and she talked about how it was a social situation for her. She'd meet up with her friends. She put her $50 note in the poker machine, and the wheels turned, the bells and whistles went off, and Sean McAuliffe said to her, "Oh, you've had a win." And she said, "Yes, look, I've won 10 cents. And he turned aside to the camera and said, "Well, actually, you've lost 90 cents. And that is what poker machines do. They make you feel like you're winning, but you're actually losing. And not only that, once you've been losing for a while, you keep playing because you're hoping to get your money back. Now, the health impacts of the impact of gaming machines are very well known. There's an estimate that gambling in 2024 in Victoria was estimated to cost $14.1 billion. And that's in financial losses, impact on productivity, impact on family, health and wellbeing. So this clause in the policy is not going to make a huge difference to the numbers of people who play poker machines in our municipality. However, I think it's really important that we do what we can as a council not to allow any more poker machines to come into our municipality. And also, including this clause in the policy, it actually does highlight our concern about the impact of poker machines in our community, particularly as the clause states initially on the health and wellbeing of our community. We certainly don't want any more of them in Northern Grampians Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Councillor Hine, would you like to?
No, sorry, I'm telling you to turn the microphone off. No, I'm good.
So you're good? Okay. So any councillor like to speak against the motion?
I'm going to speak against the motion after a lot of thought on this one. Now, it's our lease and licensing policy which relates to long-term arrangements that the council enters with users of our real estate. And any long-term arrangement is going to have pros and cons associated with it. And I think each proposal to us should be decided on the overall merits of the proposal. Electronic gaming machines will be a disadvantage, I agree, but there will be other factors that may be advantages, and I think any future decision should be based on all the factors and not just on the gambling issue. And I understand that saying this in our policy is making a stand against gaming machines. It really is just a token thing, so I struggle with doing a tokenistic policy when there's a lot bigger issues at stake. Like, addictions are a difficult issue, and if we sort of ban the facilities where we have gaming machines, I worry that that's going to send a lot of people online, because addicts don't just stop because the facility isn't there. They will find other ways to feed their habit. The other issue I have is there are other addictions that cause as much, if not more, harm than electronic gambling machines. For example, alcohol. If we make a stand on one addiction, why are we not making a stand on other addictions? And one of the other philosophical arguments that I've struggled with is, like, in our society, we're very over-regulated, and this, in a way, it's adding another regulation that constricts people who don't have an issue, because there are some people who do. Do we ban gaming machines because some people have an addiction, whereas other people will use it for their social outlet? Do we ban alcohol because some people are dependent on alcohol, but most people aren't? So I think for long-term decisions that the council makes in relation to its leases and licences, we should be looking at all the factors and not having the gaming machines as the overriding factor.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. So any councillor like to speak for or against the motion? Murray? Councillor Emerson?
Madam Mayor, but just better check on the right item, 9.3.3, because of my mistake earlier today. I'll be concurring with Councillor Probst in her objection to this amendment, to this decision. Everything she said seems quite sensible to me, but I respect what Councillor Greenberger has said also. But I believe there is a place in our community for poker machines, maybe not too many of them, but I don't think we should be restricting them totally. And for that reason, and the reasons that Councillor Probst has put forward, I'll be voting against the motion.
Any councillor like to speak for the motion?
I'll be speaking against the motion, and I totally get where you're all coming from, but I know the voice of addiction, and by minimising it, it doesn't kind of reduce the issue. It'll just move the issue somewhere else. So I think what everyone said is spot on, but I'll be speaking against it on going off exactly the words that Councillor Provost has said. Thank you.
So, Councillor Greenberger, did you wish to sum up?
Yes, just a couple of additional points. I think what needs to be considered is the opportunity that we have in front of us at the moment. We're not trying to tackle every social issue through this policy, and as I did say, it's not about being anti-gambling. I must admit, in some debates around renewable energy, one of the comments that is often made is follow the money. And I think the thing that really bothers me about this particular form of gambling is the fact that it is designed specifically to fleece people of their money. And I don't know that any other form of gambling is like that. Perhaps online gambling and the way it's advertised is a bit along those lines too. But I think the fact that these machines are specifically designed by industry to really, encourage people to play more and more and more. I don't have a problem with people who can manage, but it's often the most vulnerable that are most impacted by these sorts of commercial businesses that are trying to take a lot of money off people. The other thing, I don't think there's any sense that these machines will be totally removed from the community. As far as Stawell is concerned, the Harness Racing Club have their poker machines. That is not on council-owned property. The St Arnaud Sports Club is actually council-owned property, and after an appeal made to council by the manager and also emphasised by Councillor Probst, our Karakara Ward councillor, the argument was put that if we insisted that those poker machines be removed from the St Arnaud Sports Club, that club may not continue to be viable. And that is why this clause specifically talks about not banning poker machines in our municipality, which some municipalities have, and it would certainly be my preference. But what we have said is that we do not want additional machines, and that would include when St Arnaud Sports Club renews their lease. They can keep the 34 that they have, we just don't want any more. And similarly to Stawell, nothing to stop a private organisation opening up a club for additional machines, but on council-owned property, we will not condone businesses wanting to make money out of those machines. So I think there's a couple of clarifications there that are worth making, and I would very much prefer to see this included in our licence and license policy.
Okay, so I'll put that to the vote. Show that hands, those in favour. And against? Okay, so we have a tied vote. And I will be voting in support of option 3, as we're not changing what is already there in St Arnaud Sports Club. It's just where we want to go further in with our community in regards to gaming machines, and I just think, yes, sort of looking what my community might want and hoping that that's a decision that my community will support and respect. So that means that option 3 is carried.
I'd like to call for division.
Sorry, Murray.
I'd like to call for a division.
Yep, so we'll call for division. So I'll just ask those in favour to raise their hands again. It just means they're recorded. So Councillor Greenberger, Councillor Hyde and Councillor Heslop. Those against, your hands. Councillor Blake, Councillor Probst and Councillor Emerson. So that made the tied vote. And Councillor Heslop, I have the sometimes not easy to make a decision when it's a tied vote, but I've decided to go with option 3. Okay, so we'll now go to item 10, notice of motion or rescission. Do we have any notice of motion or rescission? We'll go to item 11, reports from councillors and committees. So I always seem to start, and Councillor Emerson always says that everyone else has always spoken in front of him, so Councillor Emerson, I might get you to start. You can open it up.
Thank you very much. Very brief. I don't think I've done very much in the last month trying to get over the store gift. I say that just because both Karen and I have been fed over in the Caracara Wood, and I'll try not to steal all of your thunder. Amongst the normal requirements of being a public elected person with our briefings and our council meetings and our general meetings with other organisations that we deal with, some of the more important ones, I suppose, has been the ongoing discussions on the Teddington Reservoir. Jack and I attended the MAV last week, and MAV in their wisdom passed 62 or 3 motions which will be taken to the state and federal government for some type of decision making. The transmission forums are ongoing, one after the other. Reluctantly, I haven't been travelling to St Arnaud that often, trying to save a little bit of fuel, because I know the CEO is worried about our fuel costs. So surely that'll come to an end shortly and we'll be able to get back to something like normal. I'll leave it at that, Karen, so I'm not stealing all of your thunder.
Right, Councillor Probst.
You picked the wrong week for Murray to go first, because I'm only focusing on 2 things today. One, like just recently the council has gone around presenting our big cheques to different organisations in the community to say thank you and to highlight the work that our volunteers do. The one I wanted to speak about though is Banyina Hall. I just love that hall, I think, because in 2019 I went to a concert there. They had Mick Thomas up, who was the lead singer in Weddings, Parties, Anything. And I went out to the Banyina Hall. You know, there were fairy lights, there were campfires outside. I took my swag and stayed for the weekend, and it was just a brilliant weekend. The next couple of years, Mick Thomas didn't come up because of COVID, but he did say to the organisers that he just loved being at the Banyina Hall. So it's that sense of community that you get when you go to local events, which actually reminds me, a friend of mine lives in Tassie and is a Mick Thomas fan. Mick Thomas was at the Launceston Hall, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Massive hall, 100 or so people could fit in there. They had 35 people turn up to Mick Thomas. So Banyina Hall has quadrupled, 5 times the attendance that the Launceston Hall had for Mick Thomas. And I think that's because of that sense of community that you feel when you attend events in our small towns. The other issue I wanted to talk about was the Mildura-Maryborough passenger train line. There's an impetus at the moment to try and get our governments to support the reintroduction of the line. So I went to a rally on Sunday and there were representatives from various political parties and a couple of hundred people in attendance to support the reintroduction of that line. And again, that's volunteers doing things to get stuff happening in our communities, and it was really quite exciting to see the number of people there and hear about how the technology is there and it can be used. We have a passenger train on it at the moment for tourism, so there's no reason why we can't have a passenger line on it now. And it's a bit unfair that Mildura, one of our major regional cities, does not have access to Melbourne without detouring via other places, which makes it very hard for appointments for health and things like that. So it was really exciting to be at that rally and see the momentum and the support for getting our passenger line back.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Councillor Greenberger.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things to talk about. As per usual, I've participated in a little bit of professional development, one of which was very interesting because it was called Leading Through Crisis webinar series, acknowledging that we are in a new era of emergencies nowadays, and certainly as councils are concerned, having to very regularly operate in that space presents a challenge moving forward. And this particular webinar was about how we cope as councillors with having to often be the impact of an emergency does actually impact on us, but we're also called upon to lead in that environment as community leaders. So very helpful in understanding that space. Like Karen, I attended some successful grant visits, and also like Karen, I think it's really worth me pointing out the impact of the Conchangella Hall, which has also received a community grant to restore that facility again to try and enable it to continue to be such an important place in the community. They have a lot of community events there. Unfortunately, it had fallen into very bad disrepair with white ants and so on, but the community have rallied, got themselves together. They've received a whole range of grants, and including this one from the council, and I think this one's for painting. So they're really starting to make a big difference. The Stawell Railway Station Gallery was another grant recipient, and they're working on delivering a creative future to work on their marketing and trying to attract a lot more interest in the gallery there. And the other one was at Stawell Secondary College, and they have received some funding from the council, but also from another range of places for an outdoor gym. And the interesting part about that was that they want to create this outdoor gym not only as a school facility, but as a community facility to make it accessible from the community as well. And it's so good to have our schools thinking about what role they can play in providing infrastructure for the community. The other one I want to quickly mention was the Central Grampians Local Learning and Employment Network, the LEN. They had their annual meeting this month, and that organisation is doing a power of work with young people in our community. Just a little bit of information for councillors. They have a school to work program. They've supported 96 students to access VET programs. 55 school industry engagement events where students go out to industry to have a look at what opportunities are available for employment in those industries. Great for keeping young people in our local area, showing them what fantastic job opportunities there are. They also run a program called Mates Mentoring. They are now in 13 schools. They have 55 trained mentors and they are mentoring 60 students, and that's across Ararat, Stawell and Lake Bolac, so it covers that broad geographic area. And they also run a program called TAC L2P program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program, but what it does is provide driving lessons for people who are experiencing disadvantage. Maybe they don't have parents with a car available, but they match up the young person with a mentor, and they do driving lessons over a very long period of time, because there's a lot of hours that have to be worked up now in order to qualify for a licence, and they achieved in the last year 16 drivers to get their licences. And they also have a program called Resilient Ararat, which is a mental health program, and I'll be certainly talking to some people down there about trying to get that program working up here in Stawell as well. And then another couple of things to mention: the Stawell Railway Station 150th year celebration, which was an absolutely wonderful event, and all credit to the Railway Gallery Committee that actually arranged that event on behalf of the whole community to celebrate the existence of the railway station. And it was excellent to hear the speakers from the railways and so on talking about the history of the railway station here in Stawell. And it was also good to visit the Stawell Men's Shed, and we've talked a little bit in council about supporting them to meet their future goals and outlook on where they're going to go in the future. Men's Sheds are another organisation that are particularly helpful around community wellbeing. So it was lovely to go there. They're actually having a barbecue with Stawell Men's Shed and Pomona Men's Shed, so there were a lot of people there that day, and they've got some fantastic facilities down there, so it will be good to support them in the future. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say the L2P program that Councillor Greenberg spoke about, it's an excellent program. I was actually a mentor on that program, and it's a lot more than just teaching kids how to drive cars. There's a lot of mentoring going into it, and it's fantastic. Sorry. This week has probably been the most exciting time that I've had since I started having the idea of joining the council. We've had meetings with our local MP, Emma Keeley, who doesn't seem to be slowing down at all, and we're speaking about advocacy with her. Murray and myself also went off to Melbourne to the MAV conference that deals with the 79 councils as a collective can advocate to the federal government, and while we were there we had the privilege to meet and speak to other members of government and build relations with them and swap ideas. Perhaps work together. While doing our sales pitch for the Stawell area, we invited the Lord Mayor of Melbourne to come to our next door gift, and with that I also spoke with the new Youth Justice Minister, Paul Hammer, and mentioned that he doesn't actually have to run in the gift, just turn up here, mate. Also yesterday I received an encouraging email from Linda Chappell, who worked closely with the Banyule City Council and was impressed with my speech regarding our youth and my ideas with bringing their ideas with our ideas. And the council's youth strategy plan, I've gone ahead and rounded up the local youth, and after recently meeting with them, gave them the opportunity to name their new youth program, and it was really pleasing to hear that the group who are tomorrow's leaders have chosen their new name as Small Town Big Dreams. This is what I've wanted to work towards all my life, and these kids will impress you like they impressed me. We also had the National Party visit over at St Arnaud. Mary and myself went over. However, Deputy Mayor Justine unfortunately couldn't make it to deal with ongoing issues. There was also the 150th anniversary of the Stawell Railway Station. Councillor Greenberg spoke about that. I'm also concerned about the Stawell RSL, and I'm having a catch up with Jeff Redding to throw some ideas around on how they can increase their numbers. And it's very important to know that you don't have to be involved in any conflict to join. Just like myself, the only war I've ever been involved in is at 22 Wimmera Street with my two sisters who would turn up to answer the phone the first. So after that, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Hyde.
Thanks. I think, like everyone, it's been a busy last 4 weeks. I've also met with a few of the local grant recipients, and I just urge for the community to keep your eyes out on the upcoming social media and website information that will showcase the amazing organisations that have been lucky in the receiving of grants. There's some great groups out there. I attended the Halls Gap Community Association meeting last night, and they're always very rewarding, and we go through lots of topics in those several hours with a large turnout in the community that attends. I also attended the Halls Gap Biggest Morning Tea run by the Halls Gap Neighbourhood House. That was a spectacular job done by Alison and Rowena, and thanks to Ricolto for putting their hand up to have it at their location. As we all know, that is an excellent cause to support the Biggest Morning Tea. I also met up with Emma Keeley, as with our fellow councillors, and also attended some mandatory training, as did all the fellow councillors. That's because we have to? No, it's great. I did join on online discussions regarding the impacts of renewables and transmission lines with our 5 neighbouring shires in our region while we were speaking to the Mayor of Armidale from New South Wales. It was very interesting, and also on the online transmission forum as per usual, and other res discussions. Also been involved in housing discussions, which we are all aware of, that we have a bit of a housing issue in our shire, and the council are looking at how we can try and minimise that or improve that situation. So ongoing discussions regarding housing. I was lucky enough to be invited to attend the CFA Halls Gap Fire Brigade dinner and awards night, and that was a twofold special night, because not only did we celebrate the amazing volunteer efforts of the local brigade and got to honour people who had dedicated many years of their service. I was there again with Emma Keeley. There was also Mark Gunning, Deputy Fire Chief, and many members of the community, and that was a fantastic event. But also during that time, I got to present a very belated Local Heroes Australia Day Award to our local hero, Nikki Van Veen, who did win it in conjunction with Blanche Leithhead back in January, but she was overseas at the time representing our region at a tourism event. So that was the opportunity to recognise Nikki for her award, as she is also a CFA volunteer. So it was very fitting, and it was lovely to be able to finally pass that on to Nikki. And I also volunteered at the Run the Gap. Up nice and early, not as early as the runners, mind you. Well done, record numbers of its 14th year of running, and almost would have to give the sole congratulation to the success of that. There is a team behind Monica Cummings, but Monica Cummings started that event 14 years ago as a way to drive visitation back into Halls Gap after the 2011 floods. And what a success that event has turned into. After volunteering for the event, I then had the privilege to be able to do a welcoming speech to those runners and also present Monica with a certificate of appreciation from the Northern Grampians Shire because of her dedication and what she has managed to achieve, because that was her last event. She is handing the baton over, moving on. So the event will continue next year. It's just no longer being run by Monica. But congratulations, Monica. Congratulations, Nikki. And I think that sort of wraps up everything for me.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Yeah, 14 years of volunteer work running in the Gap. Yeah, well done, Monique. It's great to have people like that in our Shire, and they're so inspirational for a lot of other people. And it's lovely to be able to give her a certificate of appreciation for all the hard work that she has done. So not only did we give a certificate of appreciation to Monique Cummings, we also acknowledged Nola Lowry. So Nola has been a volunteer for 30 years. On behalf of the Northern Grampians Shire, I would like to sincerely thank you for your remarkable contribution to the Stuart Mill community over the past 30 years. Your long-standing commitment to cleaning and maintaining the Stuart Mill public amenities is truly appreciated. While this kind of work is often done quietly and without recognition, it makes such a real difference to both residents and visitors. In addition to this work, your involvement in the Stuart Mill Hall Committee further reflects your strong commitment to your local community. Volunteers play a vital role, particularly in smaller towns where people really rely on each other. You're a highly valued member of Stuart Mill and a true treasure within our Shire. While we understand your decision to step back due to your health, please know that your contribution has been significant and not be forgotten. So on behalf of Council and the wider community, I extend a heartfelt thanks and appreciation for your many years of service. And Nola didn't really want to be, she just wanted to go quietly, but I just thought people like this are so important and so valued in our communities. So I just thought, why not? I'll read it out at our council meetings. I hope you don't mind, Nola. So, yeah, had a lot of things on this last month. Start of the month, the CEO and I met with Thomas Foods and had quite a constructive conversation with just updates, just where they're at, what they're doing, how we can help. Thomas Foods are going ahead of leaps and bounds and have lots of plans, so it was a really good constructive meeting. Helped MC Mother's Day Classic event this year in Stawell. It was a great day to start Mother's Day, and I did the walk with my mum, even though my mum was very busy chatting to everyone. I don't know how she can chat and walk at the same time, but anyway, it was a beautiful walk, and it was a lovely, lovely way to start Mother's Day. Had meetings with Rimmers Southern Mallee Council Alliance, so a CEO and Mayor meeting in Horsham. We had sort of half a day down there just discussing lots of things that are happening in our region. It's a good way of networking. You know, there's common themes where we have, you know, problems that we're sort of not able to get through. We chat about it. We just chat about collectively where we're going to advocate together. And we're all on the same page, which is really important, and we all have the same issues, and I think it's important that we keep this alliance together stronger, and we are all there for the same reasons to help grow our region. As I think some of the councillors said, we have had mandatory councillor training online, which is really handy. You can sit online, and then afterwards you can go out for lunch. So after one of our mandatory council training sessions, Karen Probst and I went to the Vine and Lamb in St Arnaud and had a lovely lunch, and by the time we got there I was absolutely starving. So I saw the hamburger and I was like, right, hamburger will do, and it was absolutely beautiful. So well done to Vine and Lamb, and it's just nice to see, it's nice to see so many people out and about, and I know they've been really, really busy and they're really positive, and I think they'll be a great asset to St Arnaud. We also had the Central Park Netball Court opening event, which is very, very exciting, and they're very, very pleased with the courts. They look fantastic. Well done to all those involved in getting it up and completed in time. I know it was a short time frame, but our staff bent over backwards to make sure that it was ready for the first step ball game. And I drove past and there was people everywhere, and it was all looked like, at least they had somewhere undercover as well, because it was a little bit of a wet day, but at least they had a nice new court to play on, which I thought was really important. We've had lots of discussions this month about council advocacy. We are in the process of getting a prospectus together and discussing where we may and what we might want to take to different politicians and state government, and that sort of went in line with meeting with Emma Keeley to discuss some advocacy projects. And it's always nice to chat with an MP. They can give you little hints and little ideas to sort of help us in our advocacy be the best that it can be. And we'll hopefully have the prospectus out soon so we can start doing some really serious advocacy to state government. I went to the store YZ's 50 years of support, which was fantastic. It was great to see so many of the new and the YZs that have been in that journey for such a long time, and you could just see the camaraderie. They're all chatting about different events and different things that they've done over the past 50 years, and my gosh, they've done a lot over the years and raised a lot of money for the Store Hospital, and how lucky we are to have them in our community and have these sorts of groups that do advocate and do support hospitals and raise money and are always there when you need them. They're a great team of ladies and they love what they do. And we're Stawell and the Stawell Regional Hospital are definitely all the better, and our community are all the better for them. Went to the 150th Stawell Railway Station celebration, and that was fantastic. It was great to hear the stories, great to see so many people there supporting the event, and they were just stoked by the whole event and the amount of people that have turned up to support them. So thank you for the community that did come along and support them, because I was just really, really, really pleased with the way the whole day went. We also had a catch-up with Stawell Times News and Northern Grampians Shire, just a quick catch-up, just to touch base, just to see where we're at and just how we can work better with some of our news articles and support the Stawell Times News. And they're bending over backwards and wanting to make sure that they are representing the community. And I just take my hat off to these guys. They've turned the Stawell Times News around in such short time. It's So don't read it once, you read it twice, make sure you haven't missed anything. And they definitely work hard in that space. Went to the business after hours in St Arnaud last Wednesday night, and great to see a lot of locals, and just the energy in St Arnaud at the moment is amazing. So much energy over there for businesses, which is great, and it was just really nice to get over there and chat to people. Stawell Hospital's Lady Auxiliary AGM, and once again, a great cohort of ladies that are there all the time raising money again for our hospital, and they also, it just gives them such a good sense of being, and they love what they do, and they're always thinking of ideas and what they can do to raise more money for the hospital, and they do a great job. Went to Best Winery celebrating 160 years. So 160 years, it's like, my gosh, it's such a long time, isn't it? And it was just such lovely. We had lunch. There was a lot of people from around the district that have obviously supported them over their journey. And the family got up and spoke. And there's been a lot of history there. It's just amazing. I could listen to them all day. The history and the journey that Best Winery has taken is just absolutely amazing, and nice to, get a little bit of a nice red, so that was nice. And the meal was lovely. We had lunch, and it was just nice just chatting and talking to people and celebrating Best Winery's 160 years. And also went to a community advisory committee for Grampians Health, and just nice to be in that conversation to hear what's happening with Grampians Health and make sure that, they're sort of a collective for the whole region. And the region, it sort of extends. They have such a big area of people catchment that go to Grampians Health. It's quite amazing. They do an amazing job. And that's me. So I will now just ask that somebody be able to move that the reports be received.
Received.
Councillor Blake, yep. Councillor Emerson. There's a show of hands, that's carried. So now I'll just ask if anyone has any urgent business.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, I have an urgent business item and I want to propose a motion in relation to the Maryborough to Mildura passenger line. And if I can propose the motion and seek the guidance of the council as to whether they'll accept the motion will be proposed by Councillor Probst. So the motion is that I ask council that we accept the urgent business item as an urgent business item because the process of the reopening of the Maryborough to Mildura line is of an urgency, and I impose on the CEO to give us his permission to accept the urgent business item that Councillor Probst will provide.
Yep, so we have just a motion that we accept urgent business. So that's been moved by Councillor Emerson. Does someone would like to second that?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Probst. Okay, so...
And Mayor, I agree that under 27.8.2 that it is urgent. There we go.
Yep, so item 27.8.2 involves a matter of urgency determined by the Chief Executive Officer, which he has just done, so thank you for that. So it's a show of hands that we admit urgent business. Okay, that's carried. So we'll now ask that Councillor Probst to raise what the urgent business item is.
I move that the Northern Grampians Shire Council supports in principle A, the return of the Mildura-Maryborough passenger rail line, B, the opening of the Sanana railway station, and 2, that we forward a letter of support for the reopening of the passenger train.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Someone to second that?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. So, Councillor Probst, would you like to speak to the council on the motion?
As mentioned earlier, I attended a rally in Sanana on Sunday for the reopening of the Mildura-Maryborough passenger line. It was closed in 1993, and for at least the last 16 years there's been a push to reopen it again. Mildura is a large regional city in Victoria, and it does not have public transport access to Melbourne. That causes issues for people in Mildura accessing medical appointments, etc. But reopening the line, it's planned that there would be a stop in St Arnaud, and that's also going to help our local community. Our communities have a large majority of older people, many of whom don't have their own mode of transport, so they're reliant on public transport, of which there's none, or friends, or say the Royal Flying Doctor Service, which is overworked and doesn't have enough cars and drivers to provide the need that there is. So having the train station, or having the line back and having the train station open is going to help people with access to medical services, which are very limited in our regional areas anyway. It's also going to help with connections between families and their rural children who go to Melbourne. So when our kids leave school and they go off to Melbourne for uni or for work, it's hard for them to get back home. They might not have vehicles. If they have a licence, they're probably living in a city. They don't have anywhere to keep their vehicle, so they can't get home for visits. It's going to help with that. It will also help with tourism. The stop in St Arnaud will be at the railway station where we have our Railway Hub Art Gallery, and there's a wonderful exhibition that opened last weekend. They have exhibitions every 6 weeks, I think it is, highlighting the talent in our local and wider community. But it's not just tourism to St Arnaud and to Mildura, it's the tourism that works both ways, trips to Melbourne, Melbourne people coming up this way. And we know there is a need for it because there is a tourist passenger train that is on the line already, that is booked out, and people pay quite a significant amount of money to go on that tourist train. So there is a need for it, and it is also possible to have it because there is an existing passenger train already, and the Alliance proposal is that the train runs from Mildura to Maryborough, and when it gets to Maryborough it uses an existing shuttle to shuttle people over to the Maryborough-Melbourne train line. And for people in Mildura it's going to save a massive amount of time. At the moment they have to go to Swan Hill first, it's about an 8-hour trip for them. A direct train is probably going to save a couple of hours from that. And for local people in St Arnaud, we either have to drive to Ballarat, Kangaroo Flat, Maryborough to catch the train from there and then fight with kangaroos on the way home. So having the train line open is going to assist with family connections, it's going to assist with attending Melbourne seminars and maybe even getting Melbourne people for seminars in our local communities. So it's for those reasons that I present that motion, and it is urgent because there is momentum at the moment, and with a state election coming up it would be really nice to see all the parties supporting something in our regional areas where the infrastructure in regional areas has been left behind what's been happening in Melbourne.
Thank you, Councillor Probst. Councillor Emerson.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Probst, for proposing that motion. Just a couple of important pieces of information from the Rail Alliance people. The advantage of this proposal gives faster connection in and out of Melbourne using the existing Velocity services for part of the journey between Melbourne and Maryborough. It gives more frequent and reliable public transport for the northwest region. The proposal services the student population in and out of Ballarat and Melbourne. And of course, in addition to that, all the things that Councillor Probst has suggested, more people into our communities, people stopping along the line, spending a bit of money, enjoying what we enjoy daily. This is a great motion. I think we've got to support it, and I hope everybody does.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. So any councillor like to speak against the motion? Any other councillor like to speak for the motion? I would just like to add that costing of the proposal, the Parliamentary Budget Officer provided an estimate of the cost associated with the introduction of this proposal in 2022 and suggested it would be less than 30 million to get this service into operation, which, you know, if it is such an important service, and I think any connectivity is important definitely for regional areas, and it just seems like a bit of a no-brainer, doesn't it? You know, costs like that, if they can't get this service up and running and take more cars off the roads, and some of our roads are in pretty dire straits with potholes, and if we can utilise passenger rail like in more services, I think it definitely complementary to what our community wants. So, Karen Probst, did you want to sum up? Okay, nothing to add. I'd put that to the vote. Those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Okay, so we have no public question time, and I will now declare that the meeting is closed at 1:49 p.m.